The following program is a production of Naleo TV.
Kona moon, shining so bright, smiling at you, right out of the sky.
Under the Kona Moon is brought to you in part by La'iopua 2020 and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Storytelling is a Hawaiian tradition that spans the centuries. Kawaiola News is dedicated to sharing the stories of the Hawaiian community. Go to kawaiola.news to hear oiwi from across the Pai'aina share their challenges and victories as they move the lahui forward. View bonus video stories and expanded photo coverage online. Explore Kawaiola's story archive sharing important moments in Hawaiian history. Visit and subscribe to kawaiola.news. News for the lahui.
Somewhere in Hawaii, there's a bluebird of paradise, building castles beneath the sky, just for lovers with starry eyes. Somewhere in Hawaii, there's a heaven that waits for you. Kissed by trade winds, your cares are few. On an island beyond the blue, the magic starlight will beacon from above. The tropic moonlight will guide you to my heart. Somewhere in Hawaii, nature fashions a rendezvous. Golden treasures I'll share with you on an island where dreams come true. The magic starlight will beacon from above. The tropic moonlight will guide you to my heart. Somewhere in Hawaii, nature fashioned a rendezvous. Golden treasures I'll share with you on an island where dreams come
Aloha and welcome to Under the Kona Moon. I'm Holeka Goro Inaba, your host for this wonderful special segment today featuring the life and memories of Auntie Kaulumahiehie Amaral, a lifelong dancer here in West Hawaii, a kumu hula in her own right. And thank you so much, Auntie, for being here today. Perhaps we could start off learning where you grew up and how that place kind of began and shaped your journey to where you are today.
Thank you so much, Holeka. First of all, it's a beautiful day here, and thank you so much for having me today. Truly a blessing, and I'm so honored. I'm originally from Kohala on this island, born and raised in Kohala. And my ohana in Kohala had been there for a couple decades, but the ohana is Perez on my mama's side. Perez and Tim Singh. My tutu came and Papa came from actually Waipio, Wahine Aukai. And on my daddy's side, he was Eugene, Sintai's son. And he came from Napo'opo'o. His mama was from Napo'opo'o Kahele family, and his daddy was Sibu, Sintai's son. And I'm raised in Kohala most of my life, but I did go to Kamehameha. And after attending Kamehameha, I made Kona my home till today. And Kona has embraced me in so many ways, and just feel so grateful.
And you know, after all these years being involved in the hula scene, both as a professional dancer as well as you know, a haumana, and making your journey to become a kumu, can you maybe share how you first got involved in hula from when you were a kid in Kohala?
Sure. So, you know, when I was in Kohala, hula was really not a big part of my life. You know, at that time when I look back, I think about our parents, and we all had chores and kuleana. And hula was something that, of course, we could go and attend in Kohala if we wanted to with Auntie Margaret Moku, which I did, but not consistently. You know, it was actually an extra at that time because we had to take care of our kuleana, and my kuleana was delivering newspapers. You know, and then I was also very involved in school, halaula and Kohala, you know, and I was very involved in whatever activities the school had. I was a majorette and class officer.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And then that kind of helped or segue you to Kamehameha schools. And,
It sure
and what was
did.
hula like, at least in that realm for you?
Well, when I went to Kamehameha, it was such a major part of my life. I'm so grateful, you know, this day for Kamehameha schools. And, you know, it was then that I got a little more involved in hula. But if we go back to Kohala, hula for my life in Kohala was done during May days. We also attended workshops in Waimea at Talma Parker Gym when Uncle George Naope had his workshops, or when there were summer programs. Those I remember attending. And then once I got to Kamehameha, Auntie Nona Beamer was very influential at that time. And, you know, we were very blessed too, because at that time, Lena Ala and Robert Casimiro, folks, they would come, you know, to the school also. And I just looked up to them, and a few of my very best friends became their haumana because they were on Oahu.
And, you know, that journey there to Kamehameha and coming home to Kona, you come back to Kona probably a little bit slower paced, and at that time though, Kona was booming as well. So maybe you can share about how you, I know the professional scene was how you kind of really got back into hula here in Kona. So can you share about how that happened and maybe around what year that was?
Oh boy, let's see. So that was in the 70s, in the late 70s. And at that time, oh my goodness, wonderful memories, AmFac hotels and resorts. You know, we had the Hotel King Kamehameha and the Kona Hilton, the old Kona Hilton, which is now Kona Royal Resort. We also had the Keoho Beach Hotel, which was another AmFac hotel, and right next door was the Kona Lagoon Hotel. And then, of course, on the very end, it was the Kona Surf, which today I believe is I'm unsure actually at this time. But, you know, that was the scene here on the Kona coast. And being in Kona compared to Kohala too, you know, was a little faster paced. And so Kona became my home, and I started working at the Keoho Beach Hotel. And at that time, the general manager, Fred Honda, and his wife, Julie Honda, were very, very influential in the community. You know, they kind of hanai'd me, and just, I believe that they really found these places for me to occupy some space where I could grow. And the hospitality industry just became life for me, even till today, you know, just being a mea ho'okipa and an ambassador of aloha. Truly, it's a place in my heart that I believe was created for me. And when we talk about hula, so, you know, we were doing lay greetings and then also dancing for the luau's. But prior to that, in 1979, I received a call from my hula mama, I call her, and that was Auntie Sally Alohikea Lyons. And we actually went farther back than that because they did live in Kohala, she and her husband, Uncle Joe, who was a chef at the Kohala Coast Guard at that time. And I was their newspaper girl. He made sure that even when I started hula and became more in the limelight, he told everybody, you know, she was my newspaper girl. I love it. He was so proud of that. But they were like mommy and daddy to me too. I was a dear friend of their daughter, Nohea. And anyway, Auntie Sally was very well known for what she brought to the entertainment scene, she and her sister Molly. And she called me one day, and out of the clear blue, they were starting a dinner show at Kona Lagoon at the Longhouse. And she said, I need for you to come down here and dance because I need another dancer. And, you know, on the phone, I remember telling her, oh, I don't think so. It's been a while. You know, my knees started shaking. She says, no, excuse me, you need to come down. I want to train you. And so I did. And, you know, there I began with Buddy Nalua'i and his dinner show with Joaquin Gamiao as the MC. And, of course, my mama hula, Auntie Sally, as the featured soloist. And she trained me, they loved on to me, and I really I didn't have the confidence, I believe, at that time, but they spoke so much life and light into me and helped me to build in that confidence. And I'm very grateful for her because in the last night of our show, I can still see her sitting on the stairs, telling me what my future would be like, and I really didn't see it through her eyes. And today, as I sit here speaking with you, Holeka, my goodness, everything that she told me came true. I love her, I honor her, and I'm so grateful for her bringing me into the professional hula scene.
And maybe you can share what it was like in that era of being a solo dancer. I believe you were maybe in your early 20s around there.
I was, oh my goodness, in my early 20s. And it was something, it was beautiful there for, you know, being that it was my first hula venue, professional venue. And, you know, walking in the dressing room and with Buddy, he was so creative. And it was just the glitz with hula at that time and the hula that put Hawaii, you know, on the map, on the scene, all the romance songs with the piano and with Joaquin's beautiful voice. And there were four of us ladies in that cast and 2 men, I believe. And at that time, you know, Auntie Sally had this special act that you don't see nowadays. And she was known not only for the beauty of her hula, but she also had this act on Ho'okahi Sunday afternoon. There goes my tutu'e. And she would come out with her beri mu'u with a lepo'o that was covering her face with hibiscus and did her thing. And she connected with the audience. They loved her. They loved her. And she was known for that act as well.
And just for our viewers, Auntie Sally is the mama of...
Yes, Auntie Sally is the mama of kumu hula, Yuki Ka'ea and Lily Kahelelani. So Ka'ea I Kahelelani is their halau. Yes, they're my babies. You know, they called me, from when they were little, they looked at me as a big sister, you know, and so it was our auntie. And then as they came into halau, being that we came from the same papa and uniki from the same, you know, I became their hula sister. But till today, they call me Mama Tita.
Oh, wonderful. And maybe there's not too many people, dancers I should say, that really are in the professional world of hula so strong and at the same time in that perhaps more rigid and structured environment of halau. So at the same time, maybe we could learn a little bit about what outside of the professional world, what hula was and that kind of journey that you also went through.
Yes, you know, Holekaj, I cannot stop saying how blessed I feel to be able to be a professional dancer with the longevity as a soloist, you know, within the state of Hawaii for over 35 years. And at the same time, be able to say that I'm a kumu hula and that I came from halau nale o kaholoku. And that was such a beautiful, important part in my life that I feel I needed in order for me to continue my hula life in the professional world and to be able to just embrace and illuminate hula in general. There's so much. Hula is so big, yeah. And I love the era that I come from, being in Kohala, listening to all of what I guess everybody might say the older albums with, Tony Lindsay, Blue Darling, and Kaho Anu Lake Trio, beautiful music. And from when I was a little girl, though hula wasn't a consistent part of my life at that time, I would listen to all of these beautiful music and I could feel myself dancing, really, or see myself. But when it came to halau and our kumu hula, Nani Lim, and Kumuhula Lealoha Amina, her sister, decided to open Naleo Kaholoku here on the Big Island because Naleo Kaholoku is actually on Oahu and they moved it to the Big Island. There were a core group of us who were actually professional dancers that Kumunani had gathered to start halau or seek our interest, if we were interested in it, and by all means we definitely were. And oh my goodness, it just took us to a whole different place. It elevated that space of hula for us to give us more knowledge and to really connect. I must say I always thought that, I was connected. But boy, there was just so much more, and halau helped me to, in the ho'okipa industry, to welcome our malihini and our guests with even more than just going out on stage and performing and welcoming them and embracing them. It just gave me such deeper a depth to what I was performing, and I could feel that being conveyed to them as they would mention, or to even all the conversations we've had, the dinners we've had with people, they really felt it. And I'm grateful that I believe that came from being in halau.
And that journey, you were under your kumu for decades, right?
Yes, for decades. That was in the Naleo Kaholoku in the 80s, in the late 80s in this island. So, I had been dancing as a professional dancer for about 11, 12 years. And the beauty of it too, I say that was such a super plus for me, a double blessing, is that when I started as a soloist at the Mauna Lani Bay Hotel, originally the Lim family trio was there along with the Lim Flores trio, and it was just music, until the general manager had a vision of seeing a soloist in the atrium. And so they had a private audition, and I was one of those who they called, and got blessed with a full-time position performing at the atrium, and that was the beginning of my professional career. But the double plus was having Lim family there. For one thing, we were all from Kohala, and just beautiful. Everybody was beginning. If you look at where everybody's at today and what they do, Mauna Lani definitely provided that platform for us to be together, to learn together, to perform together, to be mea ho'okipa for our visitors and guests. And when Kumunani started halau, she became our kumu now. And it was so beautiful how things happen. I cannot even explain. It's like this space was created and everybody had their place and everybody got put in their place. And it was so beautiful, so beautiful.
And maybe you can share a little bit more about that process in which you became that soloist for the Mauna Lani. So I think I've heard you tell a story a couple times, but you had to go, and what was that vision? How many people also auditioned? And what was that journey like? Because
oh my goodness, I'll say something, and because this is really, it's so intimate, and my kids, if I don't tell this, they tell the story about this because they'll remember that day. And I was so nervous, and I knew they wanted somebody in white, and so I pulled out my holoku and my white holoku that had a train about 4 feet, and that was the holoku that I also used as a model for Herb Kane's famous hula holoku painting. And I always felt that had so much mana in it because also when I was made a queen, that was my holoku. And I remember getting ready that day, and Misty and Kavelu, my two children then, you know, very young of age, knew that it was such an important day for me. And so I was trying to focus and get everything ready, and they were beefing and fighting and doing all these things, and I was trying to keep them calm, and I was nervous. And anyway, I remember they were fighting over the remote for the TV, and I grabbed the remote and I threw it over the railing outside. And they were like, "Mom!" And I thought, oh no, that just seems so unlike me. But at that point I was like, please, please. And they'll always tell that story about that day. We get a good laugh about it. But here I found my recording that I was taking, and it was Kona that I used. And so when I got there, yes, there were about 15 ladies, I believe, that day, private audition. And as nervous as I was, when my turn came, I took a deep breath, and I thought of my hula mama and what she had shared with me. And I told myself, this is what she talked about, and this is your opportunity. And so I walked into that space and I danced Kona as best as I could and came back to the dressing room, and that was it. And about a week later, I believe, I got the call and said, congratulations, we would love to have you as our hula soloist. And again, little did I know that that would become my life. You know, here I am 38 years later, I believe, 38 years later. And still dancing at the hotel as a featured soloist.
And I guess going back to that time you first became the solo dancer for the hotel, and you're one of only two, I believe, in all the islands who has had a residency so long at one specific property over all these years. And did you think you would have done it as long as you have been at it?
No, Holeka, you know, at this time, boy, I look back and I remember thinking, so I was in my 20s then. And so 10 years came, 15 years came, 20, 25. And you know, at Mauna Lani in the atrium prior to their renovation, now that they're an alberge resort, there was that one spotlight in the atrium. And I remember always looking up at that spotlight. And I would always, that spotlight was Mama Sally to me. And I remember looking up at the spotlight and I thought, okay, 5 more years. And then it got to 1 more year, 1 more year. And I thought 50 came. And I thought, that's it. You know, they might say, okay, maybe it's time for you to move on. And in the meantime, I had the pleasure of training some others, you know, to become soloists to replace me, because we were so busy with halau and also traveling with Lim family. You know, I was away, and my contract, my kuleana, was to take care of every night, 7 nights a week they were there. And so, of course, Misty, my daughter, you know, who was also became a part of halau, and she was traveling also, but we trained others to go, and that gave them wonderful opportunities to be there as a soloist, which, you know, Holeka, a soloist can dance as a soloist, yes, but I believe there's such a special connection to the viewers, to the guests who are watching you. You know, they're coming down to see you, and they want to know of your message. What is the message there? And so through all those years, you know, on the last night, when Mauna Lani was being closed for renovation, one of the highlights in my life, I think, it was so beautiful, and we had beautiful media coverage, and the hotel was closing. And I thought, this is the end of an era. That's what I called it. Was there any sign that I would be returning? Absolutely not. I didn't know, and I was okay with that. And I thought, but I'm so blessed. There are 2 hula soloists in the state with that longevity, and I was one of them. And the rest is history, but I am back now, you know, and when they called me back, then we can talk about that later, but.
Yeah, so I mean, at least today, I kind of want to touch in too, because you are a kumu hula in your own right as well. So what are you doing today, and what is it like, at least outside the professional realm, for where you are today?
Thank you, Holeka. So today, as kumu hula, I have been doing hula workshops, Tani and myself, whose voice you heard earlier on there, we formed a partnership also. And we've been traveling abroad to Europe, in Germany and Switzerland to teach. And she teaches music, you know, and ukulele, and then I do the hula. I've also been doing workshops here on the island. I also have a hula ministry in Waimea, Navahine Hilina Iya Yesu, which is another part that's hula ke akua, yeah? You know, for that. And so basically, I've been called by so many people to come and kako'o and help them, you know, when it comes to certain specific things. And I'm always so honored in doing that.
Lovely hula girl, I'm in a whirl, crazy over you. In your lovely hands, all of my plans promise to be true. Lovely hands that seem to say, happiness will pass away. So share all the love we may send, caring not how it will end. Sunset is a flame, burning your name in the skies above. And the silent night shines with the light in the eyes I love. All the things I ever knew, all the world is only you, whirling in the dance you do, lovely hula girl.
And also being here in Kona all those years ago and still being a resident of West Hawaii, what was the journey kind of like outside of the hula realm in general, being a kama'aina, if you will, of this community?
Oh, Holeka, Kona is home. Even though, you know, I was born and raised in Kohala, and I love Kohala. I'm connected to everyone there. In fact, as we speak today, I have some classmates who are doing a reunion, and though I didn't graduate with them in Kohala, they always invite me to come back home. But Kona has indeed made me so proud, so ha'aheo to be here on the West Coast. And the hospitality industry has really opened so many doors for me. And I believe it started with hula. You know, being involved in the Kamehameha Day parades, going back to Auntie Mary Green. I remember when she first called me and asked me, you know, to be a part of the parade as a pa'u rider. And I said, oh, Auntie Mary, I said, I don't know how to ride horse. She said, that's okay, baby. We're gonna make you look good on the horse. You better go learn how to ride the horse. I'm so glad I had that opportunity, you know, and through the years, after all those years of riding for the parade, and then such an honor to be Pa'u Queen for the Kamehameha Day parade in Kona. That was beautiful. And then again in Kohala to reconnect with Kohala, you know, they also invited me to come home and ride as Pa'u Queen there. So I believe hula provided so many other opportunities. There was a time, Holeka, like you today, when I was approached to host a TV program called I Remember When with Aloha Television Network, and that was Farish Media. And again, you know, I didn't know. I said, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna do this, you know? But again, I believe my grooming through hula, as I grew, you know, it took me to so many different places to be able to also model for some time, you know, and my modeling partner was Ka'ohu Sproat, known as the Flying Hawaiian, who did the volcano reports until, you know, tragedy hit with he and Brother Kimo Lim. So much being involved in the Kona Coffee Festival and pageants. Kona has done so much for me, and I love my Kona.
And those times riding in those parades, I know in the later years, then you became a MC as part of the parade, you know, and
Right.
not too often you have people who are also riders themselves and po'o queens themselves. But you know, how did that help you those years riding in the parade to then be able to participate maybe from the outskirts of the route and sharing with our locals and our Malihini alike?
Yes, I love it. I was so honored when they asked me, you know, to be one of the narrators. And boy, I tell you, you just look at the parade in different eyes as compared to riding the horse. And it was now so important to be sure you have all the paperwork in front of you. You have all of the names correct. Be sure you say the names correctly, you know, and then whenever I would see the ladies come down on horse, oh my goodness, sometimes I forgot that I had the mic in front of me, and I would just look at them and I just wanted to love onto them because I knew the amount of work that it took and the sleepless nights that they had. Definitely seeing it from another set of eyes, but again, truly a blessing to still be a part of.
And it's kind of that interconnection too, right? Because as a hula person, whether it be in the professional realm, in the halau realm, or in the parade, and in those realms, there's that interconnection of lei, of traditions within each. And for you, like, what are those traditions that are important for us to carry on today?
Very important. And you know, it's unfortunate that what we've gone through with the pandemic, you know, that's sort of oki or okid, and not, we're hoping not for long, yeah, when it comes to the many traditions. But you know, those are the times that are so important in honoring our kupuna, our ancestors, and everything that they stood for, how they worked the land and malama da'aina, took care of everything. Whenever we got together as ohana to do the parades and all of these large community events that showcased the culture of Hawaii, we always think back about what it was like with our kupuna, and if they were here sitting right next to us and they could speak to us, what would they say and what would they think? How could we honor them? And I believe in everything that we do when it comes to, as an example, the lei for parade and just the community, the gathering of everybody, that we do it with respect and lots of love. It takes lots of time and patience and humility, all of that put together. Those traditions are very important. And I'm hoping that everything will get back on its feet where we don't have to do so much virtual. I mean, that's been wonderful, and we also continue to grow, yeah, in that field, in that area. But these traditions are the ones that we must hold on to. Hawaii is such a special place.
And I think as we talk about traditions and ike that is passed down from our kupuna, at least in the halau realm today, sometimes we do focus a lot on preserving ancient hula and hulas of old. And maybe sometimes I would say not so much so with that era of Hapa Haole and you know, those decades, which I know you are, that was kind of the era in which you got into the professional world. And it's something that I would say maybe you're even specialized in, especially in what we are surrounded in the hula world today. So for you, connecting traditions, what is that era and how does that era guide what you do and what you teach?
It is definitely a must and a part of what I teach. We cannot have no gaps in between. That Hapa Haole era is what put Hawaii on the map. The romance, the beauty of the sunsets and the sun rising, you know, just expressed at a different time, in a different way, with music, with lyrics. And I can so easily connect to that era, perhaps because all the music I listened to, you know, when I was little, listening to the albums that my mama and daddy played. But whenever I go out and I teach, I always try to see how I can be sure that I connect in whatever I'm teaching, that that era is not missed. It brought us to where we are today. And you know, when I think of hula in Waikiki during those days, and the icons of Auntie Bev Noah, the voice of Auntie Marlene Sai, Lani Castino, and just all of those, and Mama Sally. When I saw her and when I first met her, from when I was a little girl, she had that look in her. It was the era, and you could grab that ukulele and anybody could sing, and she would immediately get right up there into her stance and just start, and you could just see, that era, yeah. And I love it. I think that really expresses the beauty of Hawaii, especially from those who do not live here in the islands. It paints this beautiful picture of really who we are. It really does.
And as a soloist, especially, you have the ability to tell a story. And sometimes today we almost get trapped in, do we know a choreography? But that's the beauty of hula, right? And especially as a soloist, is that you tell the story from your heart right there.
Yes.
And that's what's so special about you and the decades of dancing that you've done. We have beautiful hula dancers today, but I don't know as many people who just go and feel, and that stuff that perhaps you learned from Auntie Sally. And for Auntie Sally, you did a number for this segment today.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Thank you, Holeka. That number was Somewhere in Hawaii. And I just picture here we were in the 70s, and she would be bedecked in her flowers, just with her red one-shoulder holomu, and the way she did her hair. She would have her anthuriums and her bird of paradise from here. And with Joaquin Gamiel's voice and Buddy on the piano, she took her place on that special high-rise and stage, and she just stood there, and it was dark. And as Joaquin began the song and Buddy with his piano singing Somewhere in Hawaii, she stood there and boom, the light shone on her. And all I remember is seeing her hands come up this way, somewhere in, and she would just, when she danced, she reached outside of the door. She reached outside of the door. It wasn't anyone who was just there in the audience, it was beyond. And also while I'm speaking, I'm thinking of my kumu hula, na kumu hula le aloha and kumu nani, where, they always taught us too in halau that you have to connect. You have to see beyond, and it's just amazing. What a beautiful journey. But that's Somewhere in Hawaii that was danced for Mama Sally.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And talking about making that connection, I know today I think a lot of even our kama'aina see people who dance at the hotels or in the luau show as just a dancer in a show. But I remember when you were at the Mauna Lani, prior to them renovating and reopening, it was more than just a dancer who told the story and did the best and most wonderful hula, but it was somebody who then went to the guests and made connections. And share maybe about that part and how that's why I believe you were there so long, is that you made those relationships with those returning guests over the decades, and what that was like.
Thank you, Holeka, for that. That's such an important part of me. And I believe not only at Mauna Lani, because I have to share in small Big Island, that here we are, in the entertainment world, we all know each other, right? So we're all there for each other, trying to cover each other in different areas. Of course, a lot of events come up and venues. And so connecting with the audience, Mauna Lani provided this beautiful stage for us where the guests were right there in front of you. So, in the beginning, it wasn't that easy for me, especially dancing in a white holoku with the train. But I learned through the years because the music touched me so. I was so blessed with beautiful music. And it helped me to bring my message out, and it made me comfortable to be able to speak to the guests, even if the guests were sitting right there, like where you're sitting with me. And from there became relationships, long-term relationships with many returnees over the years, but not only at the hotel. Others would come to the hotel, and even islanders who worked in different industries. And as they saw what was going on, they were prompted to take a step further to greet and introduce themselves. And that provided other paths for me to journey to get outside of hula and meet other people from other states, from other countries, to end up meeting and greeting dignitaries and so many holeka. And that's what hula did for me, you know, as a soloist. It taught me how to connect, and, you know, through all of it, I just kept thinking that this is me, and it has to come from inside, and it has to be genuine, and that's what they're feeling. And it's that took me to different places of being able to, whether it be perform or greet and just be, you know, amongst others. It's been so beautiful.
I am Hawaii. I am forever. I will always be kind to you. May gentle rain wash your cares far out to sea. Come, you dreamers, and dream with me. I am Hawaii. I am the flowers, whispering waters, enchanted hours. Come, you lovers, come to forever. I am Hawaii. I'll bring you love. I am Hawaii. I am forever. I will always be kind to you. May gentle rain wash your cares far out to sea. Come, you dreamers, and dream with me. I am Hawaii. I am the flowers, whispering waters, enchanted hours. Come, you lovers, come to forever. I am Hawaii. I'll bring you love. I am Hawaii. I'll bring you love.
And beyond all of those little stories that you've shared of your journey to where you are today, what are some of those golden memories that just have stuck with you over the years? Can you share a few of those?
Oh my goodness, like I would love to, but oh my goodness, there's so many. Outside of hula in Mauna Lani itself, I remember, one thing that I really have a great memory of is dancing on the canoe at the Hilton, at the Waikoloa Hilton. And for maybe a good 5 or 6 years, Tihati had a venue there. And so Hoku had put it together, Hoku Damaso, and we had paddlers with the canoe, myself, and 2 musicians on the canoe going through the waterway. And that was so beautiful. I mean, to be able to do that, it kind of took me back to the Elvis Presley movies, at Cocoa Palms and thinking to Blue Hawaii. And I reflected on that the other night and I thought, oh my goodness, that was such a beautiful memory, and doing that for the time being. There's so many in meeting and greeting so many people. And, one that really sticks out at this moment is the imperial family from Japan. And I was invited and asked to greet Prince Hitachi no Miya and Princess Hanako, along with their protective console. It was very intimate, and that was such a beautiful moment. It was quiet. It was myself and Auntie Donna Jensen was my musician that day, and we got to spend some time with them, discussing Hawaiian culture and doing hula, and it was such a beautiful moment. That one really sticks out in my mind. But also as halau, that was, as a soloist, but for halau, we also greeted His Majesty, when they came out for here at the Kehola airport. The halau got to greet them, and it was a beautiful moment, to experience. And years later, Michelle Sakata's dad, Uncle Norman Sakata, he was also one that got me so involved in so many different things. And Michelle had called because there was a call out to see if I could refilm and looked as identical as I could in the same dress to do Aloha Oi. And we did that day, and we ran up to Emin Center, at that moment to film that. And those are just real special moments when I think of spontaneous, when the call came, and if I could go, I go. And I've had so many of those in my life, can you please come? We have these dignitaries coming, or we have this and we have that, and we would love for you to meet and greet and spend time with them. And it's such an honor.
And that's really, I feel, what's so special about you is that it was really a way of life. It wasn't just to go dance and show, but that your way about you and the years of telling stories, not only to Malihini, but to our own people as well, transported you and put you in all the right places, over the years.
And that's where, in my heart, I just feel so grateful, and I think of our kupuna, our ancestors, my family, and I'm so blessed and thankful for how we were raised. That's so important. And I really believe that, that was the beginning. And when my grandfather gave me my name, as I grew older, I began to really see, I believe, what he had expected from me. And to be able to meet that kuleana, I'm humbled. And there's so much more to do, so much more to grow.
Can you share a little bit about your name and that Mauna?
Well, my name was given to me by my grandpa, Kaulumahiehie. And of course we know that ulu is to grow and to inspire. Mahi is delightful. And it was just shared with with me from one of my aunts. My mama came from a family of 16. There were 2 brothers in Kohala, the Perez family that had quite a large family. My mother came from 16. Dad from down Napo'opo'o came from 9. But anyway, my grandpa gave me my name when I came back to Kohala with my mama there. And my mama there was actually the oldest sister of my biological mama. And they were the ones from the family that stayed in Kohala. There were a few because the rest from the 16, left the island. But I was told by an aunt that that name was given to me because when my grandmother had passed away, with all the children that were there, the oldest sister that took care of all of the children had to stay home and take care of the children. And my biological mama, who is her sister, I'm so blessed. I had 2 wonderful moms, was in the middle of the family actually. And so I went home, per my papa, my grandpa, home to Kohala because he felt that I would be the light and that I would be the one to take care of the oldest sister who took care of the whole family when my grandma passed. And now as I look back in life, there were 3 of us in Kohala, my older brother and sister, and oh my gosh, they were such a wonderful brother and sister. They are. My brother is now gone, but I have my sister Nalani in Honolulu. And what a grand time I had in Kohala, living on the plantation. And with my older brother and sister, they had to take care of their kuleana at home. And I think by the time I came along years later, my brother used to call me the uku because I used to want to run and chase them and be everywhere they went, and I would tail them. And then by the time I got to school, I was very involved in class activities, and my mama and daddy, you never heard much conversation from them, but they always were there to show their love and their support, and I'm so grateful for that, so grateful.
And that mana'o of ulu and mahiehie, and it has been of that sort, from when maybe your brother taught you was the little uku to the years and years of aloha you've shared with others. And I guess looking to the future, what do you see that growth continue to be, and ultimately what is the legacy you want to leave for our community here and your own ohana?
Like I reflect back when you say the word legacy, and as I mentioned on the last night at Mauna Lani, prior to closing and not knowing what the future would bring, I remember saying, yes, this is the end of an era and whatever happens, happens. And so the renovation went through and the hotel reopened, and I got the call to return. And I remember the approach was coming to me saying, you have a legacy and we want to continue that. Will you return? And I thought, oh my, that was really big for me. It's definitely a new era. But I thought, why? I asked myself why and what is the legacy? And we've discussed much of that today. I think that actually sums up what the legacy is. And I just feel deep in my heart that in everything we do, we need to continue. We need to, number one, lift up those around us who continue to aloha and malama us. Come back, get back to our roots, and learn more about our culture, because my parents came from a time when the culture was discouraged. And here we were trying to pick up and learn whatever we could. And then now we look at you, Holeka, for those, who went to school, learned the language and speak the language and teaching. All of this is so important. And this resurgence that has happened in the culture is so beautiful. I would just hope that in my years here, that I was able to be a good example of aloha and everything that our kupuna and ancestors stood for. Taking care of each other and doing it as humbly as you can, but genuinely with integrity.
Well, we really want to mahalo you for sharing about your life and I guess sharing about your sharing of aloha and our culture over all of these years, and we're honored to have you as the featured guest for this Under the Kona Moon. So mahalo nui to you, and look forward to the many years ahead that you'll continue sharing with our community here. So
Thank you
mahalo
so
nui.
much, Holeka, so much. It's such a blessing and an honor. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Kona moon, shining so bright, smiling at you right out of the sky. Kona moon, she knows it all. So why deny? Your kiss is so sweet. Heard you whispering wonderful words of love, promising that we never part. Kona moon, she knows it all. So why deny? Your kiss is so sweet. Heard you whispering wonderful words of love, promising that we'd never part. Kona moon, she knows it all. So why deny? Your kiss is so sweet. So why deny? Your kiss is so sweet. Kona moon, shining so bright, smiling at you right out of the sky.
Under the Kona Moon is brought to you in part by La'iopua 2020 and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
The preceding program was a production of Naleo TV.